Okay, we've still got people joining, but let's make a start as we're a couple of minutes over. So thank you all for joining us today. My name is Kevin Edwards. I'm the founder and director of the Affiliate Partner Marketing Association, the UK's only trade body for our industry. We've squeezed in one final webinar before you're down tools for Christmas. And I always enjoy discussions like this as we get an opportunity in a fairly informal environment to look back at the past 12 months, but also kind of take stock and look to the forthcoming year and look into the future about what may come in 2026 for the affiliate industry. I think it's fair to say that this year's been a fairly noisy year for the affiliate channel. Some of that positive, some of it maybe not as useful, but we'll have time to talk about some of those things, as well as focus in hopefully on a lot of the positives that are driving our industry forward. So I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by three industry veterans who I've had the pleasure of knowing for a number of years, and I can guarantee that you're in good hands today. So I've asked each of them to represent different elements of the industry, and they will introduce themselves shortly, so they can do that. Yeah, so that's enough for me for now. So I'm going to hand over to each of them to introduce themselves. So James, should we start with you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kev, and thanks for the invite to this, for everyone for joining. So my name's James. I head up the international partnership team here at Trade Doubler. My responsibilities are really to all the publishers and the network as a whole here at TD, and my team focus very much on onboarding new partners and also including existing relationships with advertisers. We have about 40-ish people in the team, which makes up about 10% of the TD population. So we invest quite a lot of time into the publisher landscape. I've been around for about 17 years. I actually started my career here and I went off to advertiser side, publisher side as well. So that's me.
Great. Larry, should come to you next.
Hi all, I'm Larry. I am the CMO of Big Green Smile. So we are Europe's largest eco-retailer, selling household goods and personal care from vetted, sustainable brands. I started off in SEO and then in affiliates many moons ago, and then went in-house and have worked from being an affiliate specialist into more generalist cross-marketing roles. I'm very passionate about kind of the role of affiliates and how underrepresented it often is at board level conversations. Nice to be here today.
I'm sure we'll get on to talking about that. Bex, and finally over to you.
Hi, thanks Kevin. Really excited about today. So I'm Rebecca McNiven. I'm Chief Client Officer at Silverbeam. So we are a global performance marketing agency. Our headquarters is in Newcastle, and we have a small team in Sydney and a small team in Chicago as well. We manage performance marketing campaigns for ambitious brands. I've worked in affiliates, I think about 17 years, similar to you, James, and I've worked network, SaaS and agency side too. So looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts today. Great.
I'm gonna, now that you've introduced yourselves, we don't need to have that slide up, so I'm going to stop presenting because then people can see you better when you're speaking. Okay, so fantastic. One final note for me before we kick off. You can ask questions as we go on. So if you have a question or indeed a comment, please click the activities button, which is the one with the dotted button in the bottom right of the screen. And we will also attempt a couple of polls as well as we go on, depending on where the conversation goes. So we're also going to record today's session, so don't worry if you miss anything, but you need to leave early because we'll share it with you in due course. All right, so let's get going. So obviously we're rapidly approaching Christmas. We're over the hill of Cyber Weekend, but it makes sense for us to kind of start there. So with the madness of Cyber Weekend over, let's start there. So give us your take, James. How was Black Friday and Cyber Monday for you?
Yeah, so from a TD perspective, and forgive me if I look like I'm glancing at notes, it's because I am, because we're a publicly listed company. I need to be a little bit careful what I'm saying. So as you'd probably expect. But look, for TD, it was a record-breaking performance for us over the course of the 4-day period, I guess you could say. It obviously stretches either side. We saw a 28% increase in order value. Globally, 8% compared to the 28% in the UK, so significant really. A lot of that came from retail electronics. But we did see a couple of unexpectedly some travel clients as well in there. We're seeing a lot of people taking kind of shorter breaks. The whole travel mix has changed a little bit when people are purchasing, and we're definitely seeing that across Black Friday. Average order values are increased for our clients about 9.5% across the board. So well, on average, sorry. So that was pretty good. And what we actually saw was the mix of publishers was really interesting. Whilst cashback remained the same from a revenue perspective contribution, it actually lost share of the overall pie because we saw a huge increase coming in from CSS partners. Social and influencer made up a massive part of what we were doing at the same time last year by about threefold. Yeah, and look, actually, what really surprised me was the fact that first-party voucher code sites, discount sites, were real engine room as well for a lot of the discounts. I think with a lot of the manual action changes from Google last year impacting the UK and then rest of the European markets, I expected there to be a bit of a void. The whole space is a bit of a mess, but we've just seen first-party vouchers come in there and sweep in and pick up a lot of those sales. So overall, it was a big success and big changes in the landscape. All of the main star players are still there, like the cashback and the discount partners still contributing, vast sums of revenue for our clients. So yeah, it was good overall.
Bex?
So I'll try and touch on some different points to James and not duplicate anything that he's talked about. I think there's a lot of talk before Black Friday this year, potentially about a little bit of sales fatigue. I know personally, I feel that a little bit with the amount of offers and the earlier they start hitting, and questions over whether people will be tightening their belts a bit more this year. We certainly didn't see that at Silverbean. We also smashed our client targets overall by some margin. And we still saw clients, brands competing really hard on the day as well. So there was still, despite all the planning that we do and despite the preparation, there was still a lot of adjusting strategy on the day in line with competitor brands. And I think to your point, James, about the basket value, I think what we saw is more intentional spend from consumers. So less of a flurry around it's Black Friday, we have to buy, but more of an intentional, right, I planned actually, and waiting for those discounts to land. And also, I think an important point was the alignment with payday this year as well, which I think helped boost figures and actually is super important in the Black Friday numbers for us.
It's slightly skews reporting this year because Cyber Monday was in December, wasn't it? So
yes. Yeah.
Aleri, how about you from a brand perspective? Kind of what were your plans for Black Friday and how were affiliates featured in those?
So we sell household brands, right? So say Ecover, Method, Burt's Bees, and so our planning starts very early with negotiating with our brands what offers we can run in November and kind of line them across the other activity they will run with their other retailers, for example, say Ocado. And so careful planning, definitely to ensure that we weren't competing for the same sales as some of their other retailers. And we actually saw a very similar trend to last year in the mix of sales and the effect on CAC across the month. And so we definitely have a few days in the month, like last year, we had a real sweet spot on our spend efficiencies. For affiliate specifically, we saw a huge rise in CSS partners year on year, which is great to see. And actually what that means for us as a business and as a brand and marketing department is actually want to start thinking of CSS as part of an enhancement onto our paid search activity as well. Try and blend those channels together and look at things as one holistic search channel, be it through CSS partners or through our own activity on Google. So yeah, a big takeout for kind of how I actually want to look at our channel mixes next year. So it's been quite reflective time as well.
It's interesting you mentioned about CSS. I mean, second time it's been referenced when we looked at the numbers for 2024, because we collect all of that data from affiliate networks and platforms. When we look at last year's data, CSS was one of our fastest growing, is one of the fastest growing affiliate categories. Aleri, you've kind of indicated that you're kind of seeing it as a strategic play, like blending it with your PPC. James, from your perspective, well, and also from yours, Bex, as well, do you think the growth is coming from brands embracing that more, or do you think it's just because CSS is those publishers are doing a really, really strong job at pushing their propositions and getting in front of brands?
Bex, you want to go first, or do you want me to jump in there?
You go, James.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of both. It'd be a disservice to the CSS partners. If we said that they are doing a great job, they're really understanding what clients require. How do they also do the mix of their in-house Google Teams? If I think about at last count across the network, active or proactive CSS partners that we manage, it's about 46, which is considerable, really. I mean, from a category or segment of publisher. We work really closely with them, and also on the point of advertisers, the conversations that we're having involve a lot of the time their Google or PPC or AdWords teams, right? Because ultimately we are crossing and blurring those lines. If I think about this 5 years ago, I mean, advertisers would have really pushed back quite hard and saying, there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings about pushing pricing up and it being an open auction, which it isn't. It actually, fighting your own in-house activity, which it doesn't. So there's a bigger understanding as well from clients too. So yeah, I think it's probably a mix of both, to be honest with you. And we work super close. We've got one person in the team whose sole function is to manage CSS partners globally. So it's an extremely important part of the network.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that from both sides. I think generally as well, we've seen a bit of a shift from brands in their mindset around the type of partners that can drive performance for them around Black Friday. It's not just necessarily all those typical traditional partners you would think of driving that performance, but there has been more of an openness to think about, okay, within the affiliate channel, we can get performance, as it were, from lots of different places. How do we go about doing that?
Okay, cool. Okay, well, let's move on. I mean, that's Black Friday done, but let's move on. So the APMA recently hosted a set of roundtables where members came along, and we wanted to identify the key topics and themes that are really important now that we need to tackle next year. And it's kind of the first time that we've done planning in that way, and it was a really valuable exercise. We had about 40 people in the room discussing ideas, discussing what their challenges are, but also looking at taking those challenges. And very often you take a challenge and there's an opportunity, right? So let's consider some of those challenges first before we kind of turn to what the opportunities might be. So who wants to pick up that? What's a major barrier that you're currently seeing? And yeah, well, let's deal with that first. So talk us through a major barrier that you're currently seeing within your business that's kind of holding you back, and then we'll come on to talk around some of the solutions or ways or approaches that you're taking to overcome those. Bex, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I think this is definitely reflected in the conversations recently with APMA members about what the focus needs to be for the group within the next year. But I'd say it's a couple for me that tie in together. So it is that cross-channel attribution piece. So I'll be the first to use the word in this webinar, but that incrementality piece and how we have the right conversations, and it ties into another point that I know is on the APMA list for next year, which is around reputation of the channel as well. So one of the challenges we have often is that where we potentially have someone on brand side that's not an advocate for the affiliate channel, and that can be for a number of reasons. It can be a lot of the time purely from a lack of education or a lack of understanding of the channel and the diversity of the channel. And the flip side of that, and the challenging bit comes, is that's often where the decision lives. So whether that's a decision around budgets, a decision around growth of the channel, or where attention is placed on the channel within the business. So I'd say that's the biggest challenge for us, is opening the door and getting in the room to have the right conversations. Because typically when we're in the room and we can talk passionately about the channel and explain the diversity and the huge amount of opportunities in there, that conversation goes well. We don't tend to have no, we're still not interested, thanks. We have positive conversations there. In some situations, I think the data's proved the story for us. So we've had one of our bigger clients, a couple of our bigger clients actually using MMM systems, and the affiliate channels fared poorly in those in a budget sense. But actually, once that budget's being reduced, we've started to see the impact on other channels, and that's become clear. Unfortunately, we've had to do it in a sort of negative way to cause that problem, saying, hang on, that has caused a bit of a problem. But in some situations, that's actually in the end helped us, because we've been able to use the data to go, well, hang on, look at the negative impact you're having over here from cutting budget over here. So it's not the ideal way, but as I say, I think that it is that reputation bit that's probably the biggest barrier for us.
Yeah, we've all kind of had to become even like experts in like MMM and GA4 as well, because neither of those things typically have been great servants of the affiliate channel. Larry, how about you?
I mean, it's exactly that, to be honest. I mean, a step further is that the pressure on CAC, customer acquisition costs, and cost per acquisition is high. Media costs increasing, loyalty more challenging when there's a cost of living crisis. All these kind of conditions means that basically there's P&Ls, there's a lot of pressure on the P&L basically. At the same time, when tracking becomes more and more of a blind spot with iOS privacy challenges, cookie depreciation, GA4 kind of chaos, I guess, a little bit, we lose visibility. And with that, you often lose confidence in the room when you're in a board meeting, when you're in an important meeting where you're trying to decide where budget goes. And actually you need to stick, oh gosh, why is that light gone off? I'm sorry. And often you have to, at that point, step back, and I just step back and look at things completely differently. In the case of affiliates in particular, which can be quite murky with the tracking challenges, I actually now split it up as a channel of different propositions. So I've always thought of it as a channel that is bundled together just because it has the same tracking proposition. Because you are on an affiliate network, apparently you are one channel. To me, actually, it is a plethora of really rich channels all together. And so I've changed how I talk about it. CSS, as an example, I now speak of CSS in the same breath as when I speak about our paid search. That changes, that gets attention. You know, when you can explain how they complement each other, how you might have a different feed for the CSS partner to what you're using in-house to capture overall a greater market share, people are listening. That sounds interesting. Equally, when you're talking about paid social in the same lens as, say, some of the display partners, again, this isn't an affiliate channel. That is how you get upper funnel acquisition and how you get you start to drive demand, and the other elements will be the ones capturing intent, so the voucher code sites. So yeah, to me, it all these things, all these macro influences have forced me to change how I think of things, and it's changed the language. And actually then it gets a lot more attention, because you're not just looking at it as a ROAS on its own. You're talking with your finance people about it in a much richer language.
Yeah, one of the things that, sorry, Bex, go ahead.
Sorry, Kevin, just to follow on from that point, that's really interesting. We've taken a similar approach with some of the brands we work with, actually, where when you talk to a brand and their intention perhaps is brand building, more top of the funnel activity, or partly that and partly some conversion, we actually now say, okay, well, let's have different metrics against those then. Let's not do the same reporting for all of that activity, and let's not use the same KPIs, because actually we're trying to do lots of different things, as you say, within quite a sort of fragmented channel, as it were.
Mm.
Yeah, it was one of the things that came. So we had so of the 5 topics that we identified, Bex, you mentioned that reputation came through strongly. That was one of the 5 elements, and so we had a series of discussions around about 8 people per group, where we were talking about what we could do, the challenge is there, so how do we solve that challenge? And what came through, a couple of people suggested, was that we lack as an industry a kind of a core USP. We don't have a single narrative, or we don't have like killer lines that we can all consistently parrot. in a way that maybe like Meta or Google have kind of nailed down for their business models. And so that was a takeaway for me. You know, what do we work on next year? How do we work collaboratively to come out with all of those killer lines? Bex, just on that point, actually, it kind of tees up quite neatly. We actually created a poll beforehand on non-CPA metrics. So Elaine, I don't know if you're able to put that poll live. It should be there. We asked the question. It's something that we're looking to explore a lot more next year. So we saw, again, in our State of the Nation report, we asked networks to tell us what percentage of their revenue and commissions were going through non-CPA payments through their networks. And it was around about £1 in £8, which had grown from the previous year. And we're going to track that again next year when we collect this year's data. And hopefully, depending on how easy it is for the networks to supply the data to us, hopefully we're going to break that down a little bit into the options that you've got in the poll here. You know, we want to understand what that blend looks like. Is it skewed towards CPC, CPL, etc.? So yeah, feel free to cast your vote in that poll. James, did you want to add anything on that particular point?
Yeah, I mean, I think you both done a great job of highlighting kind of some of the key points. But I do think that calling affiliate and partner marketing a channel does it a disservice, because most of the people that I work with within TD and also our clients have to be versed in many different disciplines, because ultimately we are working primarily to a CPA or a conversion metric, right? But ultimately we're trying to make lots of different models fit. I think when you look at other channels in their truest form, they're kind of, you know, they're working within a kind of framework in an environment that doesn't always fit within the affiliate world, because ultimately we're doing whatever we can to where the consumer's shopping and trying to grab them to purchase. One thing I just do want to say on the GA4 and the attribution piece, to give you an idea where we're really seeing some issues is around CSS. We've had a number of partners not tracking or seeing sales in the back end, especially with GA4. Deletion rates are 70–80% with some clients, right? Which is obviously something that we need to tackle as an industry. I think that we're seeing a real rise in the fundamental challenge in how do we track rising segments of partners that potentially are seeing huge growth, but aren't always being tracked by the client in the right way. And I think there's a fundamental problem within the industry. Exactly how do we fight for those sales and actually make sure they get allocated correctly? I'm pleased to say that obviously as a network, it's our job to make sure we're defending our publishers and making sure those sales are allocated. But I think that that's an increasing challenge that we're facing, especially around attribution and in clients' analytics tools. It's a big challenge.
Are there any other kind of challenges that you have identified that you're kind of really proactively addressing and you've had success in challenging? Anybody can pick that one up.
Putting your head above the parapet there, I think, aren't you? But answering that one, I'll jump in if it's okay with everyone. I'll say it first. First, I'll caveat it with, look, I think networks need to own network quality and kind of how elements of traffic quality, but also calling out good quality traffic. I think there's a very fine line between collaboration and collusion, right? And it's very difficult for networks sometimes, having said that, to be able to reach out to competitors and make sure they're managing that space in that sense. I mean, we have a very strong network quality team at TD, but I think there is a fundamental challenge in the industry still, sadly. If you take the category of sub-network, right, you have some amazing players in the space that are transparent, pass back the extra parameters and the referrer traffic. And then you have very opaque players that are in the space, and we talked about this previously in our catch-up call. But some, they're around because advertisers deploy them on their programs, obviously, and it's a challenge for us to keep track of certain partners that are on certain sub-networks. So, yeah, look, I think that there's a whole challenge for the industry there. I think it does need to be led by networks, and I hold my hand up as a trade doubler that there's much more that we could do, but we do heavily invest in our network quality team. But at the same time, we're not doing enough, but we need a structure as an industry and collaboration in the right kind of way to tackle these challenges, right? Because you ultimately can't get the big networks together and make up decisions on behalf of the industry. That wouldn't be right. That would be more cartel. And I think we need to fundamentally figure out how we do that. So yeah, I think that it's a challenge, and I know it's going to get raised in some of the questions, but I think it's fair. Networks should lead that discussion, or at least involve publishers and important actors so that solutions get brought up together, because ultimately, we're not going to have the solutions ourselves, I don't think, all together. So I say that.
I think from my perspective, which isn't in that same level of detail. And it's incredibly insightful to hear your perspective there, James. For me, in the conversations I'm in, it feels that people still think of affiliate marketing in that kind of 2010 era, kind of coupon sites, very bottom of the funnel, which feels incredibly transactional and not as interesting and creative as what you might get elsewhere. And so, and ultimately kind of what I got kind of referred to earlier, which is how I always think of affiliate as a plethora of channels that just use the same tracking functionality. Ultimately, the explainability of that is very difficult because people like to know, and people are very aware of when they might use Google, when they might use Meta, when they might go on TikTok Shop. They're very easy to understand because it's in the day-to-day. How an affiliate activity is tracked, it's just not on a consumer's radar, and it's not on a board level person's radar, and it's not as easy to explain. So for me, what I'd like us to tackle together is that kind of like rebranding the channel, raising the profile of the channel, having amazing case studies to show that affiliate has a role in full funnel growth and not just ROAS. I think we lean a lot on it as a high ROAS channel, which can devalue actually the wider impact it has on every level of the sales funnel, and also the role it has in customer lifetime value. Loyalty is everyone's focus now. It's not just growth, it's smart growth with customers that are loyal. How can you leverage affiliates to get the customer from first purchase to second purchase, to increase their AOV, and all these things that ultimately makes a customer more sticky? That's the interesting conversations that I'd like to see us having.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because I remember just thinking about how we frame let's take the role of an affiliate network, what an affiliate network is. Effectively, affiliate network is a feeder channel for innovation, right? Because you're making available an easy to access, low barrier to entry platform whereby any company can come in. And ultimately what we say, if you can make it work on a CPA, then it can be anything. So it's very much, I try and talk about our channel as being, the place that startups come to. So it's the place where you're going to go and find innovation. It's the place you're going to go and find new business models. If you're open and receptive to doing that, and you can try it, you can try it, test and learn and try it. And if it doesn't work, then typically all you've really lost is your time. You haven't. It's a very, as I say, it's very low barrier to entry. But yeah, no, I think it is going to have to be something that we tackle next year. Did anybody have anything else to add on that, or should we move on?
The only thing I was going to add there is that the challenge we've got, as I see it, is as you said, Larry, it's the balance of trying to communicate all the great innovation within the channel, all of the different models, but also in a really simple way, so we're not confusing things even more. I think as an industry we do suffer a little bit from the jargon we have and the complexities in the channel. They're what makes it brilliant, but they're also, I think, a bit of a sticking point for us in having those board level conversations in an impactful way. Yeah,
and that comes down to brand. Like that's, what are the feature benefits? What's the differentiator? If that's a brand marketeer's conversation, it's not an affiliate marketeer's conversation. That means bringing different people into the room.
Yeah.
Perhaps as a performance channel, we need to hire a branding agency to come in and help. Okay, so we talked about some of the challenges and some of the opportunities and some of the ways that you're tackling some of those things. So it would be kind of remiss of us not to throw in an AI question into the mix. I'm surprised that we managed to go half an hour actually without mentioning it, but so let's tackle AI. So there's a whole host of things that we can talk about. Is it a threat? Is it an opportunity? How are you using it? How are you using it internally? How are you seeing it being used externally? What are your plans for next year? So kind of very broad open question, whoever wants to take that one on.
I'm happy to jump in first on that one. I think I'm pretty sure you highlighted it, Kevin, recently as one of the plot twist predictions from last year was that something about AI products to solve everything. And I think big learning this year is that they're not there yet for our channel. Actually, it's more about how we embed AI into the workflow of what we're doing, rather than here's an AI tool that's going to fix a big problem or a big piece of work that we do. So it's a little bit more incremental. Purely from an agency perspective, I think whilst there's clearly a big opportunity with AI in terms of how we make our work more efficient, the flip side of that actually is the opportunity that we've got as an agency to show and prove the value we can deliver to clients, because the value we deliver, is not in those operational tasks. It is that strategic work. It is that solving problems for a client. And I think for brands, we seem to see at the minute, brands marketing teams are getting ever slimmer, and I think they're starting to look for us more for that bespoke level of support around education and how do we make sure that we're operationally excellent within the performance marketing channel that we do. How do we simplify the work and how do we bring that expertise in? So it's almost two sides of the coin for me. Clearly, there are lots of opportunities with AI to speed up the work that we do as an agency, to make it more consistent, to improve the quality of what we do. But on the flip side, I think it frees up that time and gives us a huge opportunity to move away from, we're not just an agency that does recruitment and activation. We are an agency that helps you as a brand to solve problems.
Yeah. James?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I see kind of 4 different streams really, like data efficiency internal. So for example, we use Kaizen, we have ChatGPT Enterprise, we've moved all of our siloed data into data lakes, everything internally in TD is for efficiency, right? I think number 2 is AI first publishers, and what does that mean? So partners that have built kind of technology on top of LLMs and AI. So partners that can aggregate 200 million products and give real-time interpretations for consumers, all the way to AI generated content, to various different models using AI first as a technology. But then they're also on the flip side, on the third stream, that also creates problems for network quality, and also how, and this is just from my own perspective, right? But how do we also find AI generated content that's bad, or publishers that are using it maybe for bad activities? And then the fourth one, of course, is publishers making themselves visible to AI engines when they're being searched, right? Because consumers are fundamentally changing how they're searching. The way you search in Google or did search in Google, for example, isn't the way that somebody would search within an AI tool, right? So that for me is also very important. And I think, that's what we're seeing right now. And I think it's too early to call on a lot of those things, but you can really start to see those businesses that I think are positioning themselves really well. Obviously, I'm biased on TD, but I think the way that we've positioned ourselves for efficiency is really very fundamentally a good thing, because it means that people in my team can spend the 10% of value, the 10% of time they do on things like other really valuable commercial stuff. They can do that 90% of the time, because things like reporting or all of that sort of stuff is almost being done for them, or it's just so they can read the data to make decisions. So the efficiency side has probably been the first stream that I think most people are kind of going after. That's my take on it anyway. I kind of see the AI changes happening in kind of those different 4 work streams. I'm sure there are more, and I'm sure other people have different opinions on that, but that's my take.
James, I just want to pick up on something that we've had a question come through about the future of how which I think we're all kind of considering at the moment, but none of us really have the answers to, because we don't know how it's going to develop. But this idea of moving to like a zero-click environment, and the existential threat to affiliate marketing. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, because this is a really difficult one to tackle, but does anybody want to kind of address that point? No.
I'd rather not. No, I think it's an important point. My personal opinion, just off the back of what I've said, is that I think it's too early to call it. It is potentially a threat, but I don't think we know how the industry is going to evolve and develop. The industry from over the course of 20 years has seen so many different developments environmentally that could have impacted us in a negative way, and every single time we've managed to come around and come up with some inventive ways of overcoming those challenges. I think if you're just using the discount space, right, or the voucher code space, recently with a lot of the Google manual action updates, the space develops and managed to overcome that. I know AI and AEO is a fundamentally different thing. It's going to shift how we search, but it is too early to call it. People are still searching fundamentally in a very similar way. That environment hasn't been created yet. So I think it's just too early to call it. Is it a threat? Possibly.
I've also kind of fallen into the trap that Larry mentioned, which is referring it to as like a single channel, because the fact is that AI, it has the potential to impact certain affiliate types significantly different to others. So, you know, if you are obviously if you're a content site, if you're a voucher code site, you know, finding vouchers and cutting the voucher site out altogether. We've obviously got closed user group emails like Top Cashback, loyalty reward sites whereby you have to be logged in to receive those. I am interested to see how it develops and whether it's a driver for us trying to improve some of the things that we know we don't, that we should improve in the industry. So things like product feeds, because there's lots of data out there to show that actually a lot of the traffic that is coming from LLMs is actually affiliate originated content. And we know that people are using them for things like price comparison, and obviously price comparison is bread and butter within the affiliate channel, but that obviously relies on really good quality data coming through. So is that an opportunity for us to kind of say, well, actually, if let's focus in now on improving product feeds, for example, which have never really been as big a focus as they should have been in the industry. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm kind of completely baffled by the whole thing, because we're kind of beholden to them to decide what they're going to do, right? We just don't know. Larry, how about you?
Is it a big conversation we're having in search, in organic search right now? So traffic to organic search, lots of brands are saying how it's decreasing because of the AI generated summary there at the top of Google, for example. I don't think of it, and so it's not something I've immediately thought of as impacting the affiliate channel from that lens, if I'm honest. So it's really interesting to hear that. I wonder if you want to turn that into an opportunity, it's how can an affiliate make their content as suitable and optimized to those AI summaries so that they can ultimately jump up to the top of the SERP. You know, what is it? Because you know, turn it into opportunity. You can think of it as a way of getting ahead. If I was in the affiliate's shoes, that is kind of how I would look at it. And we've seen success at Big Green Smile where some of our blog pages are getting more traffic because they are featuring in AI summaries. So I'd like us to think of it positively in that way. For me, when I'm looking at AI generally, it's yes, having content to be optimized to it, but it's also how we use it as not just a marketing kind of channel, because it kind of becomes a marketing channel, or at least a tool to marketing channels, but it's also how we use it internally in teams, whilst also not becoming too reliant on it, and therefore hindering the leaders of tomorrow by kind of not having the same critical thinking skill sets that we've grown up and developed in our careers. That to me is a worry, and making sure also you still have confidence in what you truly believe, that you don't need to check with AI whether you're right. And for affiliates, I think there's ample opportunity to bring it in to say publisher discovery, maybe fraudulent activity, reporting, finding a lookalike affiliates. I actually think that is where I'd love to see it and be used as a tool for strategic growth in the channel. But I've no idea if that's going to happen. If it's not, I can give you loads of ideas, just can't implement them.
We asked a survey earlier this year of publishers, agencies and brands about how they're currently using it within the auspices of the affiliate channel. And it's still fairly nascent, I think. Obviously, we know that this is rapidly evolving. Publisher discovery came through quite strongly. Content creation, obviously, came through quite strongly as well. And what was interesting is when we asked publishers how they plan to use it next year, some of those things around content creation were kind of double the current adoption rate will double next year according to kind of publishers and how they plan to use it. So clearly a lot of work going on behind the scenes. Okay, let's we've got about 20 minutes left, so let's come on to talk about some of these things. Feel free to kind of reference back to some of the things you've already mentioned here, but I want to kind of focus in on
Kevin, sorry to interrupt you. We've got a poll on AI. I just wondered if you wanted to launch that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've got a new poll which is on whether AI is. This is actually a question that we asked in the survey this year as well. whether AI is an opportunity or a threat. So you can say whether it's an opportunity, whether it's a threat, or whether you consider it to be both an opportunity and a threat. So let's move on then. So what I wanted to do was kind of focus in on some really positive things that you're seeing and some real opportunities for growth in the channel. So what's the one thing that you're kind of excited about for next year that potentially is something that you've kind of identified or that you've seen that isn't necessarily that high on or that clear on other people's radars? Who wants to take that one on first? Bex?
I'm happy to jump in on that one. So I think it's touching on something that you just mentioned, Ellery, which is around, I can really see a huge opportunity for how we can utilize AI to revolutionize actually how partners are recruited. I think currently it's a lot of blood, sweat, tears, spreadsheets, and partners are identified typically based on sector. I can see a real opportunity actually for us to move to looking at recruiting based on audience as well, and how we overlay that with a brand's customer base and their audience, how we use that to tweak and change commission levels, creative, how we change that messaging that we put out via partners based on audience behavior rather than sector.
James?
Yeah, I think just from my perspective, and we're talking about AI a lot, but I suppose the second half has really been about that. But for me, really leaning on your agency, your network to help you hear through the noise, because I think a lot of publishers and partners are, saying I'm AI first, or I'm using LLM tech, I'm building my technology on top of LLMs, for example, but really leaning in to your network and your agency expertise to really understand actually which of these partners are going to add value for me, and really focus on quality rather than quantity. And by that, I mean, we're starting to see some really smart publishers come through the woodworks that we're hedging our bets on, for sure. We might not get it right with all of them, but ultimately you need to put your line in the sand and kind of place your bets really to some extent. And I think there's a lot of very exciting new models and new partners that are coming through and really helping nurture those. Not that they need that nurturing, to be honest with you, because a lot of them have caught the wave pretty early and I think are doing a very good job. There's some great examples of that which we can go through if there are questions.
It'd be great if you could kind of
a
couple of examples for us.
Yeah, so I think looking in a space, like we were talking to one partner that was aggregating multiple millions of product feeds, right, and using LLM to have conversations with consumers and really refining the product choice down to what that consumer has previously bought, what they're in the market looking for, what's actually hot right now, lots of different variables that only really truly an AI partner could really use. Then also having backing of influencers, really big influencers as well off the back of that technology to really get the volume in a sector that's growing, right? I think that's really smart. We've also seen plugins for things like WhatsApp, for example, using LLM, like Twain's as an example, having conversations with consumers using an advertiser's CRM, plugging in to WhatsApp, setting up a shop, and then being able to have conversations in real time with consumers, right? That's just a couple of examples I can think of, but there are plenty more that are much more, that are simpler, but still sophisticated in their own right, that allow you to bring scale in a very new way that you just wouldn't be able to do previously. So I think, making sure you focus on that sort of quality, but also using the network to make sure that you're keeping it back, maybe things like poor content that's being generated or partners that are using AI that's actually a bit more destructive than it is positive, right? So it's making sure you balance that, I think.
So I think I was just going to say it's interesting that point. I think with that kind of, just to go back to the stat around how more and more affiliates, not just the affiliate brands, businesses are using our AI to generate content. I think there is a danger that AI generated content means everything looks the same. And so to me, the opportunity is the good publishers, the good brands, the good partners, influencers will be those that don't lose their unique voice and remain authentic in that. Use AI tactfully, use it as a tool, but don't use it to be your tone of voice and be your strategy, because authenticity, it's difficult to bottle, but it's very easy to lose. And so, I think yeah, I think that's a big opportunity. Is it will be for those that will win will be those that don't forget that.
I mean, as someone that uses ChatGPT a lot in my day-to-day work, I'm becoming very, very attuned to seeing instantly when something is AI generated, and it feels very hollow.
Yes.
It feels very superficial. It feels almost like somebody's kind of like ChatGPT just regurgitating a thesaurus.
Yeah. It's also not like all believable either. And when if you lose confidence because you're relying on it too much, you don't touch that instinct. Your information can also be false. So you need to remain, that critical skill needs to remain at all times when you use it.
How are you, if anybody wants to jump in, how are you actually, can you give us like one kind of real insight into how you're using it at a practical level that's really helpful to you on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it's kind of day-to-day, I suppose, but using it to predict customer churn and help analyze LTV by customer, by product or by product category. So using it to analyze data on a mass scale, always validating that, but using it to then try and identify, actually, as an example, help identify how for a certain product category, although the AOV was say 10% lower than our average, because the frequency was higher, the yearly and 3-yearly LTV was 30% greater than the average. Using it in that way, I wouldn't be able to get to that maths as quickly. And yeah, then it helps you develop new business opportunities and changes your strategy.
I'm using it to almost using it in a backwards way. So rather than helping me to put together a proposal, for example, so whether that's to the other chiefs here at Silverbean or whether it's to a client, I'm using my brains to write that, but then I'm using AI to then pick holes in that and say, right, read this and act as a CMO at a retailer. What holes would you pick in this? Or, read this as the CEO of the agency, read this proposal, tell me what are the 3 questions you'd have. So I'm almost using it in a backwards way rather than creating for me, to actually pull apart a little bit work that I've done to then give me insights into something that I've missed or an angle that I hadn't thought about, because clearly I'm coming at it from my perspective and my perspective only. So I'm trying to use it to, I guess, criticize a little bit what I've done and bring in those other perspectives to it. And I find it useful in that way.
Or as we all know, very often a stumbling block can be procurement. So it's like, what's
Yes.
the pushback going to be from procurement?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
James?
I think from my perspective, I mean, we have various different enterprise tools from ChatGPT to Kaizen, right? So, but I use it day to day to not just formulate, but also scan through my Outlook. So it's plugged into my Outlook, my Teams. I upload BI reporting to it. So on a daily basis, I'm able to use all the functional tools that I have. So when I'm communicating to my team, I'm communicating to 1 or 2 segments of publishers, opportunities. I'm able to do that at scale. So that's something that used to take me hours to do. That doesn't. So that just frees up so much of my time. So if I'm writing a piece on what an AI first publisher is, for example, which is something that I've just written, I will obviously use, as Becca's just said, I'll use my brain for that or my knowledge, but I will also upload. I'll also upload that to ChatGPT and go, what counter perspectives can you think? Have I missed anything in my argument here? Is there anything intuitive that I'm missing? Because look, we're fallible, right? We're only human, and we don't know everything, and I don't pretend to know everything. Where it falls down, though, I would just say this is a word of warning. If I was just to go in there with no knowledge at all and say, write a piece on what an AI first publisher is, it would get everything wrong, and it comes out with this complete crap that has nothing to do with affiliate marketing, right? So ultimately, you need to have the kind of marbles. You need to understand what you're actually talking about. What it does is it refines that. So I'm using it for refining as well, I would say. So yeah, efficiency and refining at the moment. Just one last thing though, we've just appointed an AI director actually in the business. And the reason we've done that is because we've now positioned all of our data and stuff into this kind of unique, in this lake, in this setup that's AI first. So now what we're thinking of doing is things like building our own agents, right? Internally and externally, things like publisher communication tools. So we get about 50, 60 publisher queries a week, okay, which need to be distributed to business. And some of them are basic questions. You can build an agent that does that, and it just cuts out 5-6 hours of someone's time. You've done that using AI, right? So there's multiple other things we'll be using it for that I'm not necessarily doing, but I may be supporting, if you see what I'm saying. So there's loads of ways that I haven't mentioned in using it, but that would probably be the core themes, I would say.
Yeah, and you will know from a customer service point of view, dealing with publishers or dealing with customers, that the vast majority of those questions can probably be siloed into kind of maybe a dozen answers, because they're asking you about payments or validations or quite standard things that you can build all of that intel out around.
Yeah, 100% right. There'll be some questions that we've missed, and because of the volume of questions, a lot of them are repetitive, but they're going to different people across the business who might answer it just ever so slightly differently, even if we're trying to sing from the same hymn sheet. So that means a publisher who's got a more difficult question goes longer and doesn't get an answer for longer. And obviously, hopefully, it will make things more efficient and people get matters resolved quicker, hopefully.
I mean, one thing that I just wanted to reference another kind of practical use of it, which I saw at AffiliFest Manchester earlier this year. Someone from an affiliate network on stage did like a live vibe coding session where they basically had written some queries and they some sort of commands, and they uploaded them to Claude, and they basically within the space of sort of 20 minutes had built a search engine for YouTube where they could find, and they took this as an example, gaming affiliates that they wanted to that would buy gaming laptops, and find me YouTube videos of these types of influencers or that I could potentially partner with as affiliates or partners, and find me where in those YouTube clips where affiliate links are, the point at which the affiliate links appear, and the affiliate networks that they relate to. And you build that in 20 minutes, and you think it's so powerful. It has the potential to kind of democratize all of us to become kind of everything. So it's definitely kind of scary, but also a huge amount of opportunity there at the same time. Okay, we're coming to the, actually, we just had one question here. I don't know if anybody's got anything additional to add beyond what we've already discussed, but somebody's asked, what skills do you think brands should develop in their own people versus agency network for AI? So I guess, would you be looking at different things from a brand versus a network or agency perspective in terms of how you're upskilling people?
Yes, so this is something very, very much on our mind, and I was toying actually when you talked about one of the challenges that we had. I think not just for us necessarily, but as a industry is that skills gap we've got. How do we close the gap that's looming hugely with AI becoming more and more embedded? I think separately to that, for us as an agency, and it's in line with some of the conversation earlier around this not being a channel, but actually lots of different opportunities. The skills that we need to really demonstrate to clients is that we can, and it sounds simple, but we can understand where a brand wants to go, and instead of us selling them, right, do you want to buy some affiliate services from us? It's actually taking a step back and going, okay, where are you going as a brand? What does your next 1 year look like? What's your next 5 year look like? What's your budget? Okay, actually, we recommend some of that goes into affiliates now, but actually, for example, you need to do some brand building, and we recommend we do some performance PR for you initially, and then we start to shift that budget. So I think that is a slightly different skill set rather than selling a siloed service. And I can see that becoming even more fragmented, as we talked about with the way that we consider the affiliate channel a little bit differently.
Okay. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left, so I just wanted to throw out one last question to you all, which is kind of like a bit of a quick fire question. So we've talked about lots of different topics today. We talked about some challenges, some opportunities. We obviously talked at length about AI, but what's the real, if you take a step back and think about kind of your last 12 months and how you're talking about affiliate, how you're thinking about affiliate next year. What's a real positive about the affiliate channel from your perspective that people can kind of take away and should be working towards next year? I don't know who wants to take that one first.
I'm happy to. I think somebody touched on it on this conversation earlier. I think if we are talking about branding the channel, I think the one thread that runs through it is, well, maybe two. There's that performance bit, but there's also that adaptability bit. We've always in the years I've worked on the channel adapted, partner side, network side, agency side, brand side, that ability to adapt to the environment around us. So actually, I feel hugely positive about some of the changes that we're seeing around zero click. I have confidence that as an industry we'll rise to those challenges in the same ways that we have over the years to various other challenges that we've had.
Larry?
I think it's a tough one. I think in the example of AI, it's being very clear about how you want to see it being used and how it can help you achieve your goals. So I think we've had so much noise this year across everything around, say, things like AI. I think for me, it's being really focused in 2026. What are your goals and how can something like AI help you achieve them so that you have a laser focus? Yeah.
And how about you, James?
Yeah, look, I think end it on a positive, right? But I think, you know, we're a vibrant channel full of lots of talent and constantly seeing new people come in. I think there's a couple of things that I would just say to think about for next year. You know, there's been a massive increase in willingness as an industry to collaborate across a whole range of issues and challenges that we're facing. From things like the sub-network guides, payments, how do all the networks pay, to how do we fix this issue? What are we worried about AI? How are consumers searching? Regardless of your competitors or whatever, right? We have more, I think, that brings us together than divides us. And ultimately, we want our channel, channel's the wrong word, but to succeed. I think just number two is the evolution of the publishing scape. I'd be so impressed with, whilst, you know, Cashback has lost a share of the pie, say, on our network, it hasn't decreased in revenue value. So ultimately, we're seeing more partners come into the channel. And the other thing I just want to mention is nurturing talent across the industry, making sure, I think Becca, Larry, you mentioned, you know, making sure that AI doesn't automate and push people out from a set of skills they need to learn early on. It's really up to us as leaders and you know, industry individuals to bring people in and really get them to make sure they're garnering those skill sets, because ultimately they're going to be able to focus on more of the things I'm sure we would have liked to have done in our youth, rather than having to pull reports and all of that stuff, right? Focusing on the commercials, the relationships that we have. So I think all those things are fundamentally good things, and I think that that's going to be where kind of the growth comes from and the focus should be.
Great. Well, look, we're nearly out of time, so thank you all very much. I just wanted to very finally end on if anybody is interested in finding out a little bit more about the APMA and the work that we've been doing this year. We've published a whole series of research documents and guides this year, including our State of the Nation report and our Voice of the Nation report. It's kind of like both qualitative and quantitative pieces. If you are interested in signing up to our newsletter, if you're not currently already signed up, then you can do so by clicking through on the QR code and signing up, or going to the apma.co.uk. But that's everything from us today. Huge thank you to my panelists today for their words and their wisdom. Where are we? Need 2 weeks out of Christmas. I suppose all that's left for me to say is have a great Christmas, and we'll see you all in the new year. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Really enjoyed that.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.